As a rehabilitation promoter, what should be your response or perspective towards people with disabilities? How do you develop your perspective, and how does this affect your relationship with others? In this video, we'll show you some examples how the views of others have affected people with disabilities. We'll also look at how your personal view and those of your community might impact your ability to work with others. While helping a child with cerebral palsy learn to use his right arm for dressing and other daily activities, his dad kept saying, "His arm is dead. His arm is dead. He can't do anything." I saw how the child held his head down in shame. As we walked out of the house, he threw the stick we were using for the exercises in the corner. The truth was he had more movement in his arm than many other children with cerebral palsy. What could he learn to do with some encouragement? A young man who fell from a tree and had a spinal cord injury causing paralysis in his arms and legs, his mother called him a helpless little boy. It was true that there was much her son could no longer do, but he still was a young man and not a little boy. Another man felt sorry for a young woman with polio he saw walking with crutches every week. He felt sorry for the different ways she walked and sad for what he felt this woman couldn't do, so he avoided eye contact and crossed the street to not interact with her. What this man didn't know was that this woman had gone to school and had a job as a bilingual secretary. She was married and had 2 healthy, active children. The response of people towards their own family members and other people with disabilities is determined by their personal experiences, what they've learned from their culture, and their religious beliefs. As a rehabilitation promoter, it's really important that you take the time to think about what you've learned from your culture, your experiences, and your religious beliefs. How will this impact the way you work with people with disabilities? Let's hear some more stories from people with disabilities so that you can learn how to better serve them. A man was lifting a heavy box overhead while working in his store. He noticed some pain in his neck when he turned his head, but didn't realize the next morning he'd wake up unable to walk. His house was on the side of the mountain, so he had to be carried up the mountain to leave the home. Today he has learned to walk some with a cane, but it is still difficult to walk up and down the mountain to the road. How could he get the medical care he needed? We had a child with Down syndrome who could walk and run, but in order to go to school, his mother was told she had to sit with him all day. How could she do that with 5 other children at home to take care of? After having a stroke, a woman wanted to return to church. The only way in was up 5 large, steep steps. She couldn't walk, but used a wheelchair. Although some men attempted to carry her up and down in her wheelchair, it became too difficult. She stopped going to church because it was just too hard to get there. The same young man that suffered a spinal cord injury, whose mom called him a helpless child, was blamed by his mother for his injury. If he hadn't sinned by going to the dance, he wouldn't have fallen from the tree. His injury was punishment from God, according to his mother. Think about the stories that you just heard. If the people had not had a disability, would that have changed their experience and their ability to go to school, get medical care, or participate in activities in their community? Or if the young man had just gotten a cold after the dance, would his mother have said that was still punishment from God for his sins? People with disabilities often enter into a different group of people because they can't do the same things that other people in their community can. If they need extra medical care, they're learning lots of new words and different things, much like you're doing now. When disability enters the life of a person or their family, their life changes. The view of others, even their own family members, may change depending on their view of disability, where it comes from, and what people can or cannot do. A husband may leave his wife, blaming her for their son's disability, while a family may not help the person with the disability, blaming them for their disability. All of this will bring a lot of loss and grief. Many people will struggle with depression. As a rehabilitation promoter, you need to be aware of all these things. As a rehabilitation promoter, it's really important that you're aware of your view of people with disabilities and how that could help or hurt the people with disabilities and their families. Keep this in mind as you learn and start working with people with disabilities and their families. This video is not intended to be medical advice and should not be used as a substitute for professional diagnosis or treatment. The content is for informational and educational purposes only and is specifically presented for review by individuals already trained by Therapy Clinics International. Always consult with a qualified healthcare provider regarding any medical conditions or healthcare concerns.